Revealed, how I secretly took down my CEO husband's 8 million empire with one incredible code. Sarah stood in the sun-drenched backyard of her suburban Ohio home, the scent of freshly cut grass mingling with the sweet sounds of cicadas buzzing in the background. Her 2 kids, Mia and Ethan, raced through the sprinklers, their laughter a bright echo in the sweltering summer air. But beneath the surface of her seemingly perfect life, a storm brewed. She was a single mother, battling her demons while trying to code her way to a better tomorrow. Just as she was starting to feel like she could manage, news from a neighbor shattered her heart. Did you hear about Mark? He's been embezzling funds from his company. Jennifer, an old classmate, leaned in with a gasp that mirrored Sarah's shock. The news felt like a punch to the gut. The man who once promised her the universe had transformed into a stranger, tangled in a web of deceit and greed. All those years of building a life together, and now she was left holding the pieces, questioning everything she believed in. How could the man she fell in love with become this person? She tugged at her hair, emotion strangling her throat as she recalled playful family dinners turned to distant memories. She loved Mark once. Now, he stood tall, a shining example of success, overshadowing the very people he promised to uplift. Anger began to mingle with sorrow, leaving a bitter taste in her mouth. Should she confront him, knowing that exposing him could mean a loss of income, a loss of stability for her kids? Or should she turn a blind eye, wrap them in the safety of silence? Sleep evaded her as days turned into restless nights. The weight of each decision threatened to crush her spirit. Then came the moment that changed everything. As she navigated Mark's financial software, something she initially approached out of curiosity, she stumbled upon a hidden line of code, a tangled mess that screamed of greed and corruption. Hope danced cheekily in her chest. This could be her moment to finally take control. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The tipping point arrived during a community gala, glitzy and overflowing with laughter, where Mark was lauded for his philanthropy. Chandeliers sparkled above, their light catching the excitement on the faces of the crowd. As he stepped onto the stage, the applause rolled over Sarah like an incoming tide. Each clapping hand felt like a betrayal, every cheer another layer of falsehood. Determined, Sarah edged forward into a sea of beautiful lies, heart racing. The memories of love gave way to an anger she couldn't press down. Then, her children caught her gaze, their eyes wide with worry, as if sensing the storm swirling within their mother. Just as the world around her began to blur, Sarah found herself at a crossroads. Would she let fear bind her to silence? Could she betray the father of her children to seek justice? As the applause echoed around her, she steadied her breath, the truth simmering below her surface. She had to choose. Would she shatter the illusion of Mark's empire or allow the secrets to bury her under the weight of their family bond? The decision hung heavy in the air, charged and electric, waiting for a spark. The decision weighed heavily on her, pressing down like the humid summer air. Sarah's heart raced, her palms slick with sweat. The laughter surrounding her felt disconnected, a distant echo of a life she once dreamed of. She could almost hear the soft whispers of her children's innocent voices, urging her to choose wisely. They were counting on her. Mark stood tall on the stage, his charming smile leading the crowd in applause. To everyone, he was the perfect husband, the successful businessman. To Sarah, he was a man she barely recognized. Every smile they shared now felt tainted, every memory laced with betrayal. She loved those moments, the way he held her hand, the laughter over dinner, but now it was impossible to separate that man from the one engulfed in disgrace. As Mark spoke of community initiatives and charitable donations, Sarah's heart twisted painfully. This wasn't just about wealth, this was about integrity, about the very core of who they were. Wasn't it time for someone to stand up for what was right? The thought jolted her. What would her children think of their father when they learned the truth? Would they admire the facade or loathe the man behind it all? She turned her gaze to Mia and Ethan. Their eyes sparkled with admiration for their dad, unknowingly worshipping a deceiver. A lump formed in her throat. Could she risk losing them, risking their perception of their daddy, for the chance at justice? Questions ricocheted in her mind like ugly echoes. A sudden wave of determination surged within her. She felt the spark igniting deep in her chest. Sarah swallowed the fear. It was too late to turn back. Exposing Mark would not just be about revenge, it would be about exposing the truth. Even if it meant shaking the very foundations of her children's world. Biting her lip, Sarah steadied her breath and pushed forward through the throng. She could feel the energy of the crowd, their excitement wrapping around her like a rasping snake. No more hiding. No more pretending. She had something to say. With each step, she felt her heart pounding louder, a drum signaling that she was about to shift the tide. Just as she reached the edge of the stage, she spotted Jennifer scanning the crowd, her expression softening into surprise. "Sarah?" Jennifer mouthed, her eyes wide. Sarah took a step forward, adrenaline pumping through her veins, ready to fight for the truth, but before she could gather her thoughts or shout out, Mark's voice boomed through the microphone. "We've worked so hard to make a difference, to uplift our community." He raised a hand, a gesture meant to inspire, but all Sarah felt was fury bubbling up like a spring. Faced with this false narrative, Sarah's voice cut through the air like a bolt of lightning. But at what cost? The crowd went silent. All eyes turned toward her, shock rippling through the guests. Mark's smile faltered, his eyes narrowing as panic flickered across his face. "Sarah?" he called out, confusion morphing into something darker. "What are you doing?" Before she could answer, the crux of her emotions spiraled, threatening to collapse around her. She had taken the first step, but was she ready to follow through? The applause faded, an eerie silence filling the room like a vacuum. With every breath she took, Sarah knew her moment had come. She held the weight of her world in her hands, her truth against his riches, and the stakes had never been higher. What would happen if she exposed everything? With fear and fury intertwining, Sarah faced Mark's stunned expression, the reality dawning. The battle for her family's future was just beginning. How far would she go to reclaim her life? "Sarah, what are you doing?" Mark's voice pierced the thick tension in the air, reverberating off the walls, but all Sarah could hear was the beating of her heart. She knew she had crossed a line, but she couldn't hold back any longer. Anger and fear danced within her, intertwining into a fierce resolve. "I'm standing up for what's right, Mark." Her voice carried through the hushed crowd, the weight of truth heavy in every syllable. Gasps echoed from the audience, a collective intake of breath. Eyes widened, whispers fluttered like leaves caught in the wind. Mark's facade began to crack, revealing a flicker of vulnerability beneath the polished surface he had maintained for so long. "Right?" he echoed incredulously, trying to regain control. "You think this is about right or wrong? This is about the good we do. The people we help. Is it? Or is it just about keeping up appearances?" Sarah stepped forward, her pulse racing as she felt the spotlight engulf her. Each step felt both liberating and terrifying, the crowd hanging on her every word. "You're hiding the truth behind your success, Mark. I want to let you keep lying, not to me and not to our children." In the silence that followed, Mia and Ethan's eyes met hers, their innocence blurring the lines of loyalty. Sarah felt a wave of vulnerability wash over her. How could she explain this to them? Yet, this was the only way to protect them, to pull back the curtain on the myth their father had built. Mark's face twisted in anger. "You'll ruin everything. You destroy our family for what? A petty vendetta?" "Not a vendetta," she shot back, choking on the words. "A reckoning. The truth needs to come out, no matter how hard it is." She felt the weight of her children's love heavy on her heart, but it was the unfairness they were being taught that pushed her into the depths of courage. "I want to let you do this," Mark retorted, a flicker of desperation shining in his eyes. He turned to the crowd, desperation bleeding from his voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is clearly a misunderstanding, is it?" Sarah interrupted, feeling empowered by the moment. What good has come from deception? What legacy do we want to leave for our children, the truth or a charade? Gasps erupted once more, voices murmuring in the crowd as the reality of her claims sunk in. She had struck a nerve. Mark struggled to maintain control, the once confident facade beginning to crumble under the weight of her words. "You're spouting nonsense," he said, but the conviction was waning, his voice trembling. "This isn't who you are, Sarah. You're better than this." "No, Mark. This is exactly who I am." The certainty in her voice brought clarity to her thoughts. "It's about time I found myself, not just as your wife but as a mother who cares more about her children's future than her husband's image." The crowd stirred, shifting uncomfortably. Sarah could see the shock written on faces, the disbelief morphing into curiosity, then concern. She knew she had taken the first giant leap, but where would it land her? The air buzzed with tension, and she felt both vulnerable and electrified, standing on the precipice of a moment that could change everything. "Sarah, please, let us talk about this at home," Mark begged, desperation clawing at his words as he took a step toward her. "Talk? What about honesty? Isn't that what marriage is built on?" The words tumbled out, ringing true in her heart even as the crowd seemed to hold its breath. Mark's face contorted in rage and fear, and in that moment, she understood, this was just the beginning. But deep down, she could feel a storm brewing. One that tested not just her resolve but the very foundation of the life they had built. What awaited her now? Did she have the strength to face the backlash that was likely to come from exposing him no matter the truth? As silence settled around them, marked with tension, Sarah could only wonder if her fight for truth would save her family or tear it apart irrevocably. Sarah's heart raced as she felt the weight of Mark's gaze sharpen. The crowd's whispers turned into a low hum, muting the world around her, and for a moment, it was just the two of them, a husband and wife standing on opposite sides of a chasm they had unknowingly created. Anxiety clawed at her throat, but each breath steadied her. Mark's expression flickered between anger and a desperate plea. "You think you're saving our kids? By tearing their family apart? I'm saving them a life built on lies." She shot back, the passion in her voice cutting through the thick air. "I want them to be proud of who they are, not ashamed of what we hide." Mark's fists clenched at his sides. The facade he had so carefully crafted seemed to be at the verge of crumbling entirely. "You're making a huge mistake, Sarah. You think this truth is going to set us free? It's going to bury us. No, it's going to free us," she yelled, her voice ringing through the hall. It was intoxicating to feel so alive, to stand firm in the face of everything that had been suffocating her for years. All those charity events, the image of the perfect family, what good is it if it's built on lies? The audience seemed to shift, shades of sympathy rolling through their expressions. She could see Mia and Ethan with wide, confused eyes, clearly taking in the battle that felt as alien to them as the stars. Panic shot through her. "Please, just go home," Sarah whispered, breaking her fierce stance. "I want to protect you both." "Protect them?" Mark roared, stepping forward, completely forgetting the crowd as if it had vanished. "You're ruining everything for them. You think they're going to understand any of this? I'm doing this for them. They deserve to know the truth, to choose their lives without the burden of our secrets." The words flowed out like water breaking through a dam, forceful and unyielding. Behind her, she sensed a ripple in the crowd, a shifting tide of support. Someone called out, "She's right." Others murmur in agreement, emboldening Sarah. She was no longer just a wife standing up to her husband, she was the voice of change. Mark's face paled, uncharacteristic fear carving deeper lines into his features. "You'll regret this, Sarah," he warned, his voice dropping to a whisper that was cold and hard. "Everything we built will turn to chaos." But chaos felt better than this illusion they had been living in. "Let it," she replied, her voice steady despite the tremors inside. "I'll take that risk if it means my children can live in truth." The tension hung thick, and in that moment, something shifted within her. She didn't just feel fierce, she felt free. Free from the weight of Mark's deception and her own silence. She was stepping off the ledge, and it felt right, and then, as if the universe aligned in that moment of clarity, a voice piped up from the back, breaking the silent tension like glass shattering. But what about the compensation package? What about the investors? They have a right to know the truth too. Gasps descended again, and Sarah could feel the crowd's attention pivot, turning toward the implications of her words. She thought of the charity events, of every penny raised for the community under false pretenses. Exactly. She exclaimed, feeling the floodgates of support opening wide. Their trust, their money, everything could be falling on the lines of deception. We deserve more than this, and they do too. Mark was speechless as the reality of the moment gripped him. Each second ticked away like the countdown to a storm, and in Sarah's chest, hope began to bloom amidst the chaos. Maybe this was the beginning of something new, something profound. As eyes boring into Sarah fueled her conviction, Mark struggled between maintaining his power and acknowledging the reality crashing down around him. How far would he go to protect his image? And at what cost to their family and to the community? The questions floated like autumn leaves, waiting for the wind to guide them. Would she be able to weather this storm, or would it unravel everything they had built? With anticipation crackling in the air, she sensed the first chill of change on the horizon. What would happen when her battle against his empire reached its peak? The crowd began to stir, a mixture of whispers and gasps rippling through the audience, illuminating the heavy atmosphere with a sudden energy. Sarah felt it, a surge of collective support, as if a dam had burst within them. She caught glimpses of familiar faces, each person grappling with their own emotions. Some were friends, others acquaintances, but now they were all witnesses to a deep fracture that had always existed behind the polished veneer of their lives. Mark's expression twisted from shock to defensiveness, the anger swirling just beneath the surface. You're a fool if you think they care about some abstract idea of truth. He spat, his voice rising again. These people want stability. They want security. What happens when they see you as the villain? There it was, the accusation she had feared. The air felt thick, and for a fleeting moment, doubt pricked at her resolve. But she quickly pushed it aside. Mark, you don't get it. I'm not the villain here, the lies are. And our children deserve to have a life without the weight of our deceit. His eyes narrowed, studying her as if searching for a crack in her armor. You really believe this is going to end well for you? For them? I believe it's going to end better than this. Sarah shouted, her voice echoing like the drumbeat of a distant battle. They'll learn to build their lives on the truth, not just of what you project onto them. That is something worth fighting for. The murmurs in the audience grew stronger, thick with emotion. It felt like they were finally waking up from a long, troubling dream. She could see it in their eyes, a collective hunger for authenticity, a craving for a narrative that they could stand behind. Sarah, someone finally called out from the crowd, what will you do? If you expose everything, what will happen? She looked into the questioner's eyes and felt the weight of all their expectations pressing down. I'll create a new path, she answered, her heart racing. We fight for our community, for those who trusted us, for our family. I won't let Mark's empire smother the truth any longer. I will not choose silence over justice. Mark's face twisted in disbelief. You'd burn everything to the ground? For what? To win a popularity contest in that crowd? The bitterness in his tone stung. No. Sarah's voice was surprisingly calm, steadier than it had been in years. I'm fueled by love, not power. I want a real family, built on honesty, not on fear or manipulation. As she looked around, encouragement flickered back at her. Uncertainty danced among the listeners, but it was quickly replaced with determination, their collective journey unfolding in real time. She could feel the walls crumbling, the storm building. Just then, Mia and Ethan stepped forward, their small figures standing firmly next to her. Mom? Mia's voice was small, but it held the weight of the world. What's happening? Are we going to be okay? Tears pricked at Sarah's eyes. The vulnerability in her children's faces was powerful enough to both shatter her heart and galvanize her spirit. Yes, sweethearts. We will be okay. This is about being free to be ourselves. No more shadows. But the ground beneath them shook as Mark regained his footing. You think you can take everything from me without consequences? You have no idea what you're dealing with. Just as he spoke, a new voice rang out, this one deeper, commanding. And you don't know how many people are behind her. It was David, one of the board members, and the crowd hushed. His presence surged like a wave. The truth matters, Mark. It always has. The tension escalated, emotions flaring like wildfire. The imminent confrontation was palpable, a simmering moment that electrified the air. Sarah's heart raced. They were fighting for not just their family but for every ignored voice in their community. In that charged moment, a realization swept over her. Courage isn't just about standing up against the storm. It's about inviting others to weather it with you. As she stood alongside her children, flanked by newfound allies, Sarah asked herself what's the next step? How would she face Mark's coming retaliation, and would the cracks between them widen or deepen with the truth? The answers hung in the air like a thunderstorm ready to break. Was this a fight for their lives, or was it just the beginning of something they couldn't yet comprehend? The crowd pulsed with energy, a living thing that thrummed around Sarah. She felt every heartbeat, every whispered word swirling like a whirlwind at her feet. David's voice hung heavily in the air, challenging Mark as the tension thickened. Mark, David said, stepping forward, you know this can't go on. You can't hide the truth any longer. It's time people see the real cost of your empire. Mark's face twisted like a mask, fury and disbelief struggling for dominance. He took a step closer to Sarah. The threatening aura around him sent ripples of fear through her, but she held her ground, her children still firmly rooted beside her. What have you done? He asked, quiet and chilling. His eyes narrowed, searching for a sliver of weakness. You've put our lives in danger, Sarah. It struck her, a pulse of clarity amidst the chaos. No, Mark. You did that long before I said anything. You have built this empire on smoke and mirrors, on the lies we told ourselves to keep everything afloat. Mia squeezed her hand, and Sarah turned to meet her daughter's worried gaze. Mom? The innocence in her voice broke through the tension. What happens now? We fight together, Sarah replied softly, brushing a thumb across Mia's cheek. We support each other. Mark realized he was losing control. You think they'll back you? He called out to the crowd, his voice tinged with desperation. These are good people. They want jobs, their kids in good schools, a life without the burden of upheaval. Is that what they truly want? Sarah challenged, catching the eyes of several individuals in the audience. Or do they want the chance to ensure their children can live in a world where they don't have to hide who they are? The crowd began to stir again, a soft murmur rising. David stepped closer, his shoulders squared, as he caught the palpable shift. Mark, we've been quiet too long. It's time for a new vision, one grounded in honesty. He gestured to the crowd. Who here supports Sarah? A ripple spread through the audience. Hands began to raise, slowly at first, but then with growing confidence. We are with you, Sarah. Someone shouted, and the sentiment sparked like a flame. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes, gratitude washing over her in waves. In that moment, she wasn't alone. She was surrounded by a community that finally felt empowered to stand up. Mark's face darkened. You'll regret this, he threatened, his voice like ice. The moment hung in the balance, filled with an uneasy silence. What do you think will happen next? Sarah asked, her voice steady. You know the danger of your actions isn't just mine to bear anymore. It belongs to everyone. Just then, the air shifted again, as sirens blared in the distance. The sound pierced through the resolve, sending new ripples of uncertainty through the crowd. Sarah's heart raced. Was it the authorities responding to an anonymous tip? What's happening? She whispered to David, his expression shifted from determination to concern. I think it's time we find out. Let us make sure what we stand for is known, loud and clear. As the sirens drew closer, Sarah's mind raced. It wasn't just about Mark or their family's future anymore, it was about a fight that had far-reaching consequences. Would they really change the course of their lives, or would this be the moment everything crumbled? Her gaze shifted to the sea of faces, the fear and hope coalescing in an electric tension. She was no longer just fighting for herself, she was leading a movement. Let us take that stand, then, she said, her voice rising above the approaching sirens. If we go down, we take the truth with us. And as the crowd united behind her, ready for whatever came next, a wild sense of exhilaration coursed through Sarah. This was just the beginning. What awaited them outside the walls of their confrontation? Would the truth they fought for finally resonate through their community, or would it lead them to a deeper darkness? The sirens wailed closer, slicing through the tension like a knife. Sarah's heart thudded as the crowd shifted, a living organism reacting to every pulse of sound. Fear mingled with determination in the air, and she could feel every eye on her, expectant and charged. Stay together. David shouted, rallying voices around them. We know what we're fighting for. But Sarah's focus remained on Mark. His face was a storm, fury churning and boiling as he surveyed the crowd. For a moment, he looked vulnerable, exposed in a way she had never seen. Could this be the crack? The glimpse of the man she once thought she knew? How did it come to this, Mark? She asked, her voice unwavering despite the chaos. You had a choice. He interrupted, raising his voice over the sirens. You think it's that simple? I did what I had to do to survive. I built this life. On the backs of those who trusted you, Sarah shot back, feeling the weight of responsibility shift on her shoulders. We can't stand by and watch you destroy everything anymore. The crowd cheered again, a burst of acceptance that surged around her. A strength she hadn't anticipated filled her. Each shout felt like armor, shields to protect against the impending confrontation. Then, without warning, a loud thud echoed through the air. The police had arrived, their lights flashing against the pompous darkness of the evening. Officers stepped out, authoritative and intent, scanning the gathering crowd. Everyone stepped back. One of the officers barked, his voice cutting through the murmurs. We need to establish order. Sarah's pulse quickened as Mark's eyes darted to the officers. He straightened himself, regaining a semblance of control. This is all just a misunderstanding, he said, almost pleadingly, as he took a step toward the authorities' direction. You'll see, I can explain. She reached out instinctively for Mia and Liam, her children now huddled close beside her. We're not backing down, she whispered to them, feeling a swell of strength. No matter what happens. Mark's gaze snapped back to her. The sirens faded momentarily as they locked eyes, and for just a fleeting second, there was a glimmer of the man she'd fallen in love with. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared, obscured by the anger that had consumed him. The officer turned to Mark, assessing him with sharp eyes. Sir, we have reports of possible misconduct. We need to speak with you. Sarah felt a spark of hope ignite. Here it was the moment they'd all been waiting for. This is it, she thought. Truth is about to break free. But then Mark's expression twisted, fury revealing itself in the harsh lines of his jaw. You think you can come in here and take everything from me? He spat at the officers, his voice a low growl. I built this town. Enough. The officer said, stepping forward. We're not here for a speech. Chaos erupted once more, shouts from the crowd intermingling with Mark's protests. We'll need witnesses. Shouted another officer as they began separating the assembly. Look at what he has done to you. Sarah screamed, trying to be heard over the uproar. None of us are afraid anymore. She saw David step in beside her, a solid presence. Together, they faced down their fears and Mark's fury. The moment hung, electric in the air. Mark, Sarah shouted, this isn't just your story. Your empire is our story too. Mark's eyes darkened, but as the officers moved closer, she noticed something shift. A crack in his facade. Could it be possible he was starting to understand? And then, just as the policeman approached him, something strange happened. The crowd began to chant Sarah's name, the rhythm growing like thunder. Sarah. 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 Each shout felt like a bomb over fresh wounds, igniting a fire that couldn't be contained. She felt the power of their collective voices surging around her, wrapping her in warmth and resolve. Mark faltered, confusion crossing his face. "What are you doing?" He snarled, the sound of her name, her identity echoed in her heart. But beyond the chaos, she felt a new fear. Would this support hold? Would the truth really change anything, or would it simply stir the storm? As the officers reached for Mark, Sarah realized this was just the beginning. Yet, they were all on the brink of something monumental. What would happen when the truth unfurled? In that moment, she realized the fight wasn't just against Mark's empire, it was against a legacy of silence and fear. That a shout erupted from the depths of her soul. "We are not afraid." And just as that declaration ripped through the air, a blinding light flashed from the corner of her eye. What was happening? Was it a rallying call or a signal of something darker approaching? The blinding light pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing every eye in the crowd. A moment of frozen disbelief filled the air before chaos erupted anew. Laughter, shouts, and curses mixed, creating a symphony of confusion. Sarah squinted against the glare, instinctively pulling Mia and Liam tighter to her side. "Stay close," she urged, her voice barely breaking through the rising tide of noise. Mark's fury dissipated momentarily, replaced by disbelief as he shielded his eyes. "What the hell is that?" he roared, scanning the crowd for answers. "Back up," an officer commanded, raising his arms to clear a path toward the source of the light. "We need to find out what is going on." The crowd didn't comply. It surged forward, electrified by a shared sense of rebellion and solidarity. Sarah felt that energy coursing through her veins. This was no longer just about Mark. It was about them all, about the years of fear and manipulation. Suddenly, a figure burst through the crowd, clad in a hoodie with the hood drawn low. "I got the footage," they shouted, brandishing something that flickered like a small screen. The murmurs settled slightly, all eyes shifting toward this unknown hero. "What footage?" Mark's voice was tight, apprehensive as he took a step back. The figure pushed forward, voice steady and authoritative. "Evidence of the embezzlement, the lies, everything. You thought you could silence us forever?" Gasps erupted throughout the crowd as the figure unveiled the screen, the images revealing undeniable truth, documents, recordings, and testimonies. Sarah's heart raced. This was it. This was the truth that had needed to surface. "Look!" David called out to the crowd, raising his hands. "This is our moment. The truth is right in front of us." The crowd roared back, "Truth! Truth! Truth!" With each chant echoing Sarah's pounding heart, Mark's face was a mix of rage and fear, his fists clenching at his sides. "You think this will change anything?" he spat. "I can still make you all regret this." But as the footage continued to play, Sarah noticed a transformation. The crowd shifted, the power dynamics morphing. Where once Mark had held sway, now hope surged through the people. "I trusted you." "We all did," screamed someone from the back. "You betrayed us." Mark's face fell as people's accusations layered on his defenses like an avalanche, burying his last shreds of control. Panic flickered in his eyes as he looked between the officers, slowly forming a barrier between him and the crowd. "Enough!" the police officer barked, now marching forward, determination etched on his face. "You're no longer in control. Let us go." Sarah felt a new wave of fear wash over her. Would Mark go quietly? Could he still reach for chaos one last time? But the crowd remained resolute. Each chant of Sarah's name, each accusation toward Mark, fortified her resolve. She lifted her chin, ready to confront whatever came next. "Mark," she said, her voice breaking through the chaos like soft rain on parched earth. "You need to let this go. You can't fight this anymore. You're stronger than this anger. Mark's expression transformed, clarity replacing rage in his eyes, and for a moment, the storm within him faded. But just as hope sparkled in the air, a clamor rose from the back, drawing Sarah's attention. Another figure appeared, his presence forcing the officers to pause. It was Tom, one of Mark's loyalists, but there was something different about him. Do not underestimate the repercussions of this. Tom shouted, his voice dripping with venom. You think this will end things? You have no idea what's coming. As murmurs rippled through the crowd, Sarah realized the stakes were much higher than she'd anticipated. Where do we go from here? She wondered. An unshakable tension rose, and Sarah braced herself, poised for whatever revelation was about to unfold. Would they be able to reclaim their story, or would they sink into chaos once again? Tom's chilling words hung in the air, thick with tension. Heads turned nervously as the crowd processed his threat. The atmosphere shifted, a mix of fear and defiance swirling together. What do you mean? Someone called out, breaking the silence. Their voice trembled, laced with uncertainty. Tom stepped forward, a wolf among sheep. You think it's just about this moment? You think exposing him changes anything? You have no idea the lengths he'll go to keep his power. Mark's face betrayed a flicker of fear, but he masked it quickly, his eyes narrowing like a predator cornered. Sarah took a deep breath. She felt the weight of the crowd's expectations pressing down on her. They needed more than just words, they needed a way forward. We can stand together, she called out, her voice steadier than she felt. But we have to stay smart. Our fight isn't just against Mark. It's against a system that protects him. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, emboldening her. We've seen the truth. We've felt the fear. Now it's time to change our future. But Tom's laughter cut through the moment, dark and mocking. Is that what you think? Just because you have a few images and videos? He won't go down without a fight and he'll take you all down with him. What can he really do? Someone shouted back, fists clenching defiantly. Enough. Mark bellowed, his voice raw with rage. You think I care about this rabble? You're all worth less than a penny to me. This isn't just about you. It's about power. His words sliced through the crowd, drawing gasps and whispering fear. Sarah could see the cracks forming. Some people glanced at each other uncertainly, the resolve she'd hoped for starting to waver. Listen. Sarah stepped forward, fear mixing with determination, her voice rising above the chaos. His power only holds if we let it. We're stronger together. This is our chance. Some in the throng began to nod, faces sharpening with renewed hope. Don't let fear win. David shouted, rallying the crowd. Do you want your lives to be dictated by a tyrant? Together, we can face whatever he throws at us. Mark's expression darkened, the rage boiling beneath the surface. Enough of this nonsense. I'll show you just how wrong you are, he snapped, the threat taut in his voice. Aren't you the one who taught us about loyalty, Mark? A woman called from the front. She stepped forward, determination blazing in her eyes. And what do you have left when loyalty fades? Sarah noticed the shift once more. A sense of unity began to emerge, a thread of resilience weaving through the crowd. Could this truly be their moment of change? But then, from the corner of her eye, Sarah caught a flash of movement. A glimpse of chaos as more figures appeared, their intentions unclear but unmistakably menacing. A chill shot through her. What is that? She gasped. Tom turned sharply, an unsettling satisfaction creeping across his features. I warned you. The consequences are just beginning. As anticipation hung, thick in the air, Sarah felt a shudder of dread ripple through her. Mark was done hiding, whatever he had set in motion was about to be unleashed. The crowd began to murmur again, panic flickering like a flame. What do we do? A voice quivered near her. Sarah took a step toward the approaching figures, heart pounding fiercely. It was now or never. We fight. We do it together. Mark's eyes gleamed with malice. And we'll see just how much you're willing to sacrifice. As the figures drew closer, a new reality settled. The battle had just begun, and it would take everything they had to stand against the coming storm. Could they hold their ground when all hope seemed lost? The crowd pulsated with energy, heartbeats echoing like thunder in the tense atmosphere. As Sarah's pulse quickened, she turned to Mia and Ethan, their faces painted with concern and confusion. "Stay close," she urged, squeezing their hands tightly. They were her anchor, a reminder of why she had chosen this fight. Mark's fury hung in the air like a storm cloud, brimming with havoc. His threats spilled from his lips with venom, but something shifted in the crowd. Sarah could feel it, a collective heart awakening, igniting courage in those who had once stood in silence. Fueled by their shared resolve, she took a deep breath, letting warmth and strength surge through her veins. What happens next? A voice called from the back, uncertainty dancing around the question. Are we really ready to take him on? We deserve to reclaim our story. Sarah shouted back, her voice cutting through doubt like a beacon. We've lived in the shadows for too long. Working together, we can break down the walls of this empire. The crowd erupted in low murmurs, a spiraling wave of encouragement building from within. Days of turmoil and sleepless nights coursed through her mind, urging her to remember the depth of her love for her children and community. If we don't fight for truth, we lose. She implored, her voice steady and fierce. Together, we will stand strong against the lies that have overshadowed our lives. With every rallying cry, the crowd surged forward, solidifying their determination. Sarah! Sarah! They chanted, a rhythmic foundation bearing her name like a battle hymn. Mark's expression darkened further, his facade threatening to crumble under the sheer force of their collective will. What can you do to stop it? You can't control the truth. She shouted, feeling her power rise amidst the tensions. Your empire rests on deceit, and today, it will shatter. Mark's eyes blazed with fury, but the uncertainty rippled through him. You'll regret this. He spat, his voice strained and tight. But the crowd stood defiantly. They had tasted the freedom of truth, and the flavor was intoxicating. Just when the air felt charged to its breaking point, the figures Tom had summoned finally came into focus. Their presence loomed ominous, like dark clouds on the horizon. A chill ran through Sarah's spine, but the warmth of unity enveloped her. She looked at her children, determination igniting even further. We protect each other. No one stands alone. As the figures approached, Sarah could feel the tensions of a confrontation lurking, electrified by the cries of support all around. We're not afraid. Someone shouted, the sentiment echoing from many voices. We're standing with Sarah. Amidst the whirl of chaos, familiar faces emerged, friends and neighbors who carried a shared story of betrayal and strength. The group before her began to shift uneasily as they approached. They sought to impose fear, to break this newfound resolve. But Sarah stood firm. We are fighting for ours. For the lives you've destroyed with your greed. A hush blanketed the unfolding scene, a moment's serenity before the potential storm. Can we do this? Will they really take us down? Someone whispered, trepidation clear in their tone. We're stronger together. Sarah urged, punctuating her promise with newfound fire. Remember why we're here. This is our moment. In an explosive turn, the figures drew nearer, but the crowd didn't flinch. Their resolve solidified, the chant picking up once more. Sarah! 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 With each repetition, Sarah's spirit soared, her heartbeat synchronized with the rhythm, pulsing evidence of their unity. Mark took a step back, uncertainty leaking through his bravado. It's all just words. He sneered, voice trembling in the face of their strength. You can't change what's already been done. Watch us. She shot back, the power of her voice igniting the afternoon sun. Today is not just about exposing you, it's about reclaiming the truth. It's about hope. At that moment, an officer moved forward, directly confronting Mark. Sir, you've been accused of serious allegations. We're taking the report seriously." The crowd surged, each voice echoing support behind him. The walls built on lies trembled, and Mark's face twisted in disbelief. "You think this is going to change anything?" he hissed, but uncertainty danced in his eyes. "Truth always breaks through lies," Sarah declared firmly. "And it's time the world sees you for who you really are, a coward hiding behind a facade." Mark fell silent, a fierce fire in his eyes dimming as he wrestled with the gravity of what was unfolding. The crowd's determination crested like a wave, washing over their collective fear. "Let the authorities handle it," David shouted, his voice breaking through the mounting tension. "What you've built is falling apart right in front of you." The weight of the moment bore down on Sarah, but she stood taller than before. "Let us take that stand. Let us bring truth into our lives and break free." The chant, no longer just a cry but a proclamation, rang through the air, echoing the spirit of a transformed community. "Truth! Truth! Truth!" They shouted, voices reaching a crescendo that resonated through the fabric of their unity, and as the emergency vehicles surged through the gathering crowd, lights spinning in swirling colors, Sarah felt a profound sensation, a rekindling of hope. This was their moment, a breath of fresh air that promised change. Mark's defenses crumbled as the officers stepped closer, commitment shining in the way they addressed the people. "It's time to face the truth." With a final gasp of disbelief, Mark faltered, the storm within him dissolving. And in that fleeting moment, something seemed to shift between them, a glimpse of understanding, however fleeting. Looking into her children's eyes, Sarah vowed not to yield, to protect their future from the shackles of deceit. "We have a new story to write," she murmured, squeezing their hands, feeling their warmth surge between them. United and unwavering, they were finally moving forward into the light of truth, the real beginning of their journey. Standing among the crowd beside David, she faced the horizon bravely. This was not just her fight. It belonged to each heart gathered that day, and she knew they had become a force of change. As the final chords of uncertainty faded and hope soared, Sarah felt an undeniable sense this was no ending. It was the beginning of a real legacy rooted in honesty, resilience, and love. And together, they would rewrite the narrative on their own terms. Now, I need to ask you something important. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it really makes a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support is crucial, and only true fans understand the importance of standing by the channel through these actions.